So today we're going to learn how to make a banana cake, and this is to use up your nice rotten bananas that you've forgotten about. Now, if they've been on a fruit stand like this and you've left them, then they're nice and squishy and yellow and brown. You can still see there's yellow. If it's been in the fridge, I'm just going to peel this one back. You can see the skin is brown, much sort of more discoloration on this one than on that banana, but the inside is still perfectly acceptable to eat. And if I left it a few more days, it would make a great banana cake. But because I've got some real squishy ones, we're just going to mix them together and it will still make a great banana cake. So all you're going to do is peel back the bananas and just break them into nice big spaces. Get rid of the banana peels. Clearly we don't want them. So we're just going to throw them out. Now with your much squishier bananas, which I'm just going to, these ones here, there we go. You cut the top off, and as you can see, you can kind of squeeze it out like toothpaste, and you can see the flesh is very different looking to that. So that is an overripe banana right there, that one there, ooh. And that is a perfectly good banana to eat with a brown skin. So that's what happens when you stick it in the fridge. The skin goes brown, but the banana actually ripens much slower because of the temperature. Out on the bench, the bananas ripen pretty quickly. This is only a week old and it's no good for eating, but wonderful for making banana cakes. So you can see here again, the skin's nice and smushy. We're just going to break that off into our bowl. You want mashed banana, so you want this banana to be a lot squished, a lot more squished than it is there. So we're just going to take a fork and squish it. So we now have our mashed banana in a bowl. That can just sit to one side, and we're going to prepare our baking tray. So with the banana cake, because you can use this recipe for banana cake or banana bread, doesn't really matter which, you want banana cake, you want it either in a square tin or a round tin, but it's kind of about that size, which is about 20 centimeters in length. And you just take some baking paper and just lining the bottom. You don't actually need to line up the sides. So fold that in. So your tray looks something like that. So that can just go to one side. And your oven needs to be preheated, so it needs to be turned on about now to 180 degrees. I've already turned mine on. So now we can actually start the cooking process. I have my big slab of butter, and you want 125 grams. Now, I'm actually a quite bad example of a baker because I use guesstimates. That is about 125 grams of butter, and we're just going to chop that up nice and small because it makes it easier for our next step. Now, you don't have to use an electric mixer. I mean, it does make it easier. If you don't have one, a wooden spoon is just as good. And if you're not going to use an electric mixer, I would suggest you softening the butter in the microwave for about 10 seconds before you put it in the bowl. So you've got your 125 grams of butter in there, 3/4 of a cup of sugar in there, and then electric mixer just gets turned on. And you want this to be a nice light yellow color. So it's going to be pale, but it's going to be really, really fluffy, and that's when you can stop the beans. Okay, so now you should have a nice pale yellow mixture, and you just need to take a spatula and just scrape that all up so it's all in the middle and not on the sides of the bowl. And then we're going to add the eggs. Now, if you're not very confident cracking eggs into a bowl, and you don't want to have to dig out shells, crack it into another cup first, And if you do get a shell in the egg, if you use the side of your shell, the big shell, to get out the little pieces, it's much easier than trying to dig it out with your finger or a spoon. So you crack your egg in, throw it in the mixer, and give that a little bit of a beat. Then just scrape the sides again and crack your other egg in. So right now we've got 125 grams of butter, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, and 2 eggs. I'm just going to give 8 cups of mashed banana, which is roughly about 2 bananas, depending on how big the banana is for a banana cake. And I'm just going to put that in there. Make sure you get most of it out. Now for my favorite bit, you need 2 tablespoons of milk in a microwave safe container. If you don't have a tablespoon, now a tablespoon is the big spoons. If you don't have a tablespoon, it's 4 dessert spoons, which is what you use for cereal. So it's roughly about 1/4 cup. I'm going to put that in the microwave for about 30 seconds. Now, as soon as this comes out of the microwave, you're going to put in a teaspoon of bicarb. Now, you want to do this pretty quickly after the milk has come out of the microwave. Just be careful, the milk will be rather hot. So you want to be careful with whatever container you've put it in. If you put it in a teacup, just be sure that the teacup isn't porcelain and isn't going to heat up. Quickest way to burn yourself. So you've got your nice hot milk, and you're just going to put your teaspoon of bicarb in. Now you will see the milk get nice and fluffy and probably double in size. That's what you want. You want it to look like the top of a cappuccino, basically. And you're going to pour that into the rest of the mix. And then, you guessed it, give it a beat. Put it on a low spin to start so you don't get everything. So now you've got your bicarb and milk mixed in. Just going to give this a bit of a scrape. You want to make sure it's all getting mixed in nice and evenly. Scrape that off. So in here I have 2 cups of flour and a teaspoon of baking powder. This is baking powder. So baking powder and bicarb soda, they're both going to act as our rising agents in this cake. Now, to add the flour and baking powder, turn the mixer on a very low speed and add a little bit at a time. This makes sure it gets nice and beaten in evenly, but it also stops the flour from spewing all over your kitchen. Flour all in the bowl, you can scrape down all the sides. Whoop. Scrape down all the sides and then give it a good beat for a minute or so on a high speed. That will just make sure we've got it all nice and blended in. Okay. So you end up with a very nice creamy mixture. You want to take off any excess off your blender, your beaters. So just take them out. And yes, if you are so inclined, this is where you can lick the beakers. Put them away. Take your bowl off the electric mixer. Give it another swish around with the spatula. And then you take your bowl, your pan, baking tray, and just empty the contents of the bowl into the pan. You want to spread this out so that the batter, the mixture, is nice and even across the pan. It's better to push to a little bit more on the sides because as the cake rises, it will rise more in the middle, and that's when you get that dimple. So if you want a nice flat surface, push it out to the sides a bit more so you have that little bit less in the middle, and then you should get a nice even cake. You want to make sure it's all the way to the corners, and every now and then you will have to either use another spoon or a knife or a very clean finger to just take the excess batter off the spatula. So now your cake is ready to go in the oven. So that goes in the oven at 180 degrees centigrade for about 20 minutes, basically until the top is nice and golden brown. And if you stick a skewer or a chopstick in, it will come out cleanly. And then you have a banana cake. Our banana cake is all ready. It's nice and brown. So you want to tip it out onto a wire rack to cool. The best way to do this is tip it onto a board first. Actually, put the board on top of the baking tin, tip it out. Put your wire rack on top, tip it over, and you have lovely cake ready to rest and then be eaten.